Welcome into Recruit Reaction. How we feeling? It is Rivalry Week. It is signing day week. Well, signing day is in like 4 days, and the number one quarterback in America could be on the move. Jared Curtis, 4 days before National Signing Day. There are lots of rumors swirling, potential flips. We got some surprise visits to cover today, and of course, coaching shakeup. So we got Steve Wiltfong. He's in the back. He's getting ready. He's working the phone. I can see him now. He's already on the phone, talking to sources, talking to recruits. I love this show. This is what you guys get. A behind-the-scenes look at recruiting on Saturday as these big games are being played. Big visits taking place right now. We're going to get this thing started. We're starting with some Jared Curtis news. But before we get going, guys, do me a favor. Look at this. Look at this. You did it. You got us to 100K. I thank you guys. It's been a wild ride these last 2 years on the Rivals Recruits channel. If you are not subscribed yet, hit subscribe. We're about to go on a run. You're going to want to be subscribed because when we go live, you get notified. I don't even know when we go live, so how would you guys know? You need those notifications, and we're about to go on a run. Today is the first of 5 straight live shows. We're going to do a live show today. We're going to do a live show Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then, of course, signing day is Wednesday, and we'll be live as well. So make sure you guys are subscribed. All right, so let's get to it. Let's bring in Steve Wiltfong, national analyst here at Rivals. Steve, it is Rivalry Week. It is 4 days until signing day, and we have information on the number one quarterback in America, Jared Curtis, committed to Georgia, but you are hearing a flip could be in the works. Tell us the latest info.
Yeah, you started the show off saying there's Jared Curtis rumors. These aren't rumors. Jared Curtis's camp is having dialogue with Vanderbilt, and Clark Lee signing his extension was a major piece to the puzzle for the Commodores to keep the 5-star from Nashville Christian home, knowing that Clark Lee was going to be here long term, which also means that offensive coordinator Tim Beck will be here long term, is exciting to Jared Curtis, who wants to play right away. I think as it gets closer to putting pen to paper and locking in your college future, playing early is very important to Jared. He doesn't want to sit. And Georgia fans are like, well, why did he commit to Georgia when he didn't want to sit? Well, that was months ago. Now it's close to getting into college and locking in your future. And Vanderbilt has a situation where he will be able to compete for the QB1 job. Kirby Smart, Mike Bobo, and the Georgia Bulldogs staff, as they always are, honest and upfront. Gunnar Stockton expected back next year. You can compete for QB2 with Puglisi and Montgomery, and then maybe we are rolling people and you can get on the field as a true freshman in that capacity. So that's where it stands with Georgia. Now, obviously, I put in the Rivals Prediction Machine forecast in favor of Vanderbilt on Friday because I thought when Clark Lee signed his extension, that gave the Commodores momentum. Now, we'll see if he picks Vanderbilt on Friday or if he stays with Georgia. If he stays with Georgia, it'll basically be the third time he picks them this process because he's going through a process again right now. Stick with Georgia or flip to Vanderbilt. And you look at the season that Vanderbilt is having as we tape this show. They are up 45-24 at Tennessee. They have only won inside Neyland Stadium 2 times, Josh. Once in the 70s and most recently 2005. Diego Pavia is having a fantastic senior season. He is a Heisman candidate. He's third in the country in points per game, and today has 400 yards of total offense against Tennessee on the road. This is an offense that really fits that really fits his skill set and allows him to be a playmaker on both sides, or as a rusher and a thrower. I mean, Jared Curtis is going into his state title game having thrown for over 9,000 yards and 120 touchdowns. He's rushed for over 2,000 yards and 47 more scores. And you watch Vanderbilt play, and Diego Pavia is having so much success as a thrower, a runner, and the way they scheme it up, it's an exciting brand of football. So Vanderbilt looking for their biggest win at the quarterback position from the high school ranks since Jay Cutler joined the fold. Georgia looking to hang on to Jared Curtis. Those relationships, Kirby Smart, Mike Bobo, second to none. The way Georgia recruits, being able to play with those caliber of players is very exciting. And then the consistency of the program. If you play at Georgia, you have a chance to win the national title year in and year out. But at Vanderbilt, playing for the city, a program pushing for the college football playoff this year with a quarterback that's got a chance to win the Heisman Trophy in a situation where he could play as a true freshman next year. I think Vanderbilt is where they need to be or getting where they need to be on the NIL front. And so I think the momentum's with the Commodores, and that's where my Rivals Prediction Machine forecast is at right now. We'll see how I feel over the next 96 hours.
All right. So you kind of breezed over a bit of big news here. You don't expect Jared Curtis to sign when the period opens on Wednesday. You said Friday.
Yeah, Hayes Fawcett reported that Friday date. Rusty Manziel reported that Friday date earlier in the week. He's playing in his state championship game on Thursday. And so he is going to announce his final college decision on Friday. And he's got people in his family that would love to see him play for the Georgia Bulldogs. But ultimately, I think Jared is making the decision of where he wants to go to college. I think he has been in charge of his entire process. And coming down the stretch, I think he sees real opportunity. And people close to Jared say that he wants to play year one. And that is one of the biggest factors going in Vanderbilt's favor for a coaching staff that he believes in. A source early in the week said, if Clark Lee signs an extension, this is going to get interesting. If he doesn't, or it goes somewhere else, not so interesting. We've known this for a while. And Tim Beck is the key, and the way he puts the quarterback in position to be successful and allows them to go out there and make plays as a dual threat guy is very exciting and enticing. And he's been to a couple Vanderbilt practices, Jared has. And then obviously he attended the win over Missouri with game day there. We've said the whole time Vanderbilt's real. Now I think that they have the momentum, but we'll see how it goes over the next 4 days. There were times where it looked like Oregon had the momentum in Jared Curtis's second process, and he rocked with Georgia. So can Georgia get it to the finish line? Mm-hmm. My pick's on Vanderbilt Saturday evening as the Commodores go into Neyland Stadium. They're up 45-24, 556 yards of total offense, 303 on the ground, 253 through the air. Pavia over 400 yards of total offense right now. And he hasn't even played a completely clean game. This game could be even worse, Josh. They had 2 turnovers in the first half. This is a splattering, to use Josh Pate's words, in Knoxville. And if Vanderbilt gets into the college football playoff, they're the number 14 team in the country. They're going to be a dangerous team. And if they can land Jared Curtis, they have a dual threat quarterback for years to come that is going to attract more talent, maybe a more talented roster coming from the high school ranks to keep this thing rolling for years to come. Clark Lee's locked in for 6 years, and he would not have signed an extension if he did not think that Vanderbilt was going to pour the resources and support into this football team to compete for SEC championships. This was not, oh, you're paying me and my family is taken care of forever, generational wealth. Clark Lee wants to win the national championship. He believes Vanderbilt can do it, but he pushed this community to invest in. They believe in him. They're supporting him. He would not have signed if he didn't think Vanderbilt could keep it rolling, and Jared Curtis's camp knows that as well.
All right, so we're talking Vanderbilt with the ability to flip the number 1 quarterback in America. And today they also added another elite prospect, linebacker Amari Sanders, the number 3 ranked linebacker in the 2027 class. Top 100. He's number 58 overall, so borderline 5-star. He's also from Nashville down there in Brentwood. But Do you think that this has anything to do with the Jared Curtis momentum, or is this just Vanderbilt recruiting right now?
Well, you watch Vanderbilt on defense today. We made a lot about their offense. They are flying around, playing with intensity, hitting. The pads are popping. This is a fun style of play. Clark Lee's a defensive-minded guy that is going to be hands-on with every player on the defense, particularly guys that play that safety, linebacker, rover position, and that's what Omari Sanders plays. And look, he was at the big recruiting win over Missouri. And I talked to him after that. He said the environment was exciting, lots of energy. Coach Lee is a great leader. I really like the program he is building at Vandy. He told Chad Simmons that he wants to just focus on his senior year and his school, and the time was right. Kind of reiterated the atmosphere, the confidence around the program and the trajectory and this coaching staff. They beat Texas A&M here. Clark Lee, kind of the Yoda, Mike Elko was kind of his Yoda, the guy that kind of brought him up. He beats Mike Elko for their top linebacker, safety rover target. They beat Miami here, obviously beat the Vols amongst others. So a massive recruiting win for Tennessee to land Omari Sanders, the number 3 player in the state, number 3 linebacker in the land on Saturday before going into Tennessee and rocking the Vols for the 3rd time in program history on the road. I think this is 10 wins. Is this the first time Vanderbilt's ever won 10 in a season? I feel like I heard it was the first time they won 9. So 10-2 for Vanderbilt with a chance to make some noise in the college football playoff. If not, they're headed to the Citrus Bowl, right? And certainly we'll get a good Big Ten opponent in that world. But I'd love to see Diego Pavia, Heisman candidate, Vanderbilt, Clark Lee in the doors in the college football playoff after going on the road, a difficult place to play, and beat Tennessee worse than the score that we're seeing right now. If they don't have those first half turnovers, it's a bloodbath at intermission.
Kind of crazy to say that, but they are playing some wide open football. So, hey, you guys in the chat, they're going.
Hey, they got a guy. There's a guy on campus right now at Tennessee, Josh, Dakota Gooden, 4-star, committed to UCLA, defensive lineman. His decision's coming down to the Bruins, Vanderbilt, and Tennessee. He's at Tennessee this weekend, but he was at Vanderbilt last weekend, and there's some buzz that the Doors are building some major momentum with him as well. So the Commodores are going to be a fun team to follow down the stretch of this process, and then maybe for years to come, if they can flip Jared Curtis and see what they can build around the prize local passer.
Yeah, it's heating up. So you guys in the chat, talk to us. Ultimately, what do you think Jared Curtis is going to do? And if he does flip, what does that mean for Vanderbilt? And also, what do you think Georgia should do? Should they just sit tight? I mean, they do have an elite quarterback committed for 2028. Steve went over some of the arms that are already in that room. Do you think they need to go after somebody or just sit with what they got? You guys talk to us, comment section below. All right, Steve, we are going to talk Ohio State because the Buckeyes, they beat their rival Michigan 27-9 in a much-needed rivalry win, pushes Ohio State to 12-0. Julian Sayin, 233 yards, 3 touchdowns, an interception. Bryce Underwood, not really effective, 63 yards through the air, 1 interception. I think he had 6 yards as a runner, due to sacks and stuff. I mean, he was a little effective moving the ball with his feet, but not really. On the other side of the ball, though, you had Bo Jackson, 22 carries, 117 yards. First 100-yard rushing game in this rivalry matchup since J.K. Dobbins did it back in 2019. Jeremiah Smith caught a touchdown, so did Carnell Tate. And on the recruiting trail, Steve, nobody has been hotter down the stretch than the Buckeyes. Multiple flips in the month of November, and you also put in a new prediction. We'll talk about some of the guys in the class, but let's get to your new prediction for Ohio State.
Yeah, I like them to ultimately flip Caden Gebhart, a local safety from Clemson, a guy that is having a fantastic senior season, over 100 tackles, 2 picks, 8 pass breakups, a local kid. Ohio State wants to add 1 more defensive back to a recruiting class that ranks number 5 nationally per the Rivals industry. And talking to sources, I think things are picking up with Caden Gebhart. Josh, if I had a Heisman vote this year, it would go to Julian Sayin. Young man is out there completing 80% of his passes, 27 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions. The Buckeyes are unblemished. Julian Sayin, give him the Heisman Trophy, in my opinion, this year. Matt Patricia obviously has a chance to win the Broyles Award for the top assistant coach in college football. I know I've stumped for Bryant Haynes at Indiana, the Hoosiers defensive coordinator, and certainly he has a great shot to win it. And Ohio State's coming to my city. They're coming to take on the second-rate Indiana Hoosiers next weekend. Indiana, Ohio State, inside Lucas Oil in the best sports city in the world. We're going to have number 1 and number 2, Ohio State versus Indiana, with potential Heisman Trophy winners on the field, Julian Sayin and Mendoza, and the Buckeyes. Another top 5 class coming in. They got to hold on to some of their key guys down the stretch, and they're looking to close one more defensive back. And then I think they're done here in 2026 because they've been on a little bit of a roll at the end of the season. But I think they're about done. I think Gebhardt finishes it off for them. And if they can keep these receivers in the fold, perfect finish for the Buckeyes on the trail over the next 4 days.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. Currently, Buckeyes sitting with the number 5 ranked class in America as we're 4 or 5 days away from National Signing Day. You mentioned the wide receivers, kind of the crown jewel of this class, Chris Henry Jr. and Caden Dixon-Wyatt, both from California, Mater Dei High School. What's the latest buzz? I mean, I know we were watching Chris Henry Jr. throughout the spring a little bit into the summer, but it seemed to have solidified. Oregon, USC not going away. What are you hearing on these 2 wide receivers for Ohio State?
Well, for Chris Henry Jr., it could ultimately be what's your threshold for a true freshman wide receiver compared to the rest of the roster and what their salaries may be. I think he's been great with Ohio State. Obviously, what he loves about the Buckeyes is the track record of player development. That's not just getting young men into the first round, but then those guys are able to take the NFL by storm. Jackson Smith-Njigba leads the NFL in receiving yards this year, and obviously the likes of Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin, Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, these guys are pro-ready when they step on the field for their first NFL training camp, OTA, after they get drafted. And Chris Henry Jr. recognizes that, and certainly the track record of just the team itself, offense, always going to have a good quarterback. You're always going to play in the biggest games. And I do think that the Buckeyes have come to the table correctly in the NIL department for Chris Henry Jr., but what's it going to look like over the next 96 hours for Chris Henry Jr. and final offers? And I mean, Oregon covets Chris Henry Jr. And they're still having dialogue with him. And so anything can happen is what I was told last week.
Is USC involved with Henry or just primarily Caden Dixon-Wyatt?
Yeah, so sources around USC tell me just Caden Dixon-Wyatt. That would surprise me if they got Chris Henry Jr.
Yeah.
But recruiting, I mean, there's always a surprise or two during the signing period, National
100%.
Signing Day. So we'll see what it is. Look, I think Chris Henry Jr. and Caden Dixon-Wyatt have been great with Ohio State. The communication with the coaching staff, they know what it is. They know what they're stepping into, and it's a place you bet on yourself. Cream rises to the top. If you're a starter at wide receiver at Ohio State, there is a very, very, very good chance you're going to go in the first round. And then you could be a guy like Terry McLaurin and not go in the first round, but just get that massive second contract because you should have went in the first round and people just didn't see it. But most of the time you go in the first round. And so they get that. They understand that. I think Caden Dixon-Wyatt loves Ohio State. I think people in his camp have given USC reason for optimism. And we know that the Trojans, are armed and dangerous and have an exciting offense. And Lincoln Riley has a track record as well. They have the number 1 recruiting class in the country. And from what I understand, Caden Dixon-Wyatt is one of their final remaining targets. So Ohio State, I don't know if they're out of the woods. I don't even know if it matters. Like, they could have Wiltfong and Newberg at wide receiver, man. And we would go out there and get drafted today.
In the first round.
And I'm
I am a
43.
first-round draft pick at Ohio State.
It's kind of like that Ty Cobb. What would you hit off? What would you hit off the pitching today? I think I'd hit about 270. The great Ty Cobb thinks he'd only hit 270 off the pitching today. Well, I'm 72 years old. I think us in our early 40s, man, we get open. We make plays in Ohio State's offense. That's just how they scheme it up and how they develop. So those guys understand it. Chris Henry, Caden Dixon-Wyatt, the guys committed. You bet on yourself. Yeah. If you go to a place like Ohio State, you're not worried about who's coming in with you, behind you, in front of you. But it's a modern era of recruiting. The Ducks have an exciting offense. Oregon's only lost to one team over the last 2 years. They're 1-1 against them. They just lost the one that mattered more than the one they won. They lost to Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. And then USC, they have the number 1 class in the country. And there's going to be a lot of expectations on the Trojans next year to make the college football playoff and make a run.
Well, Ohio State undefeated to end the regular season. Nobody on the recruiting trail is hotter. So over the next 4 days, or as Steve likes to say, 96 hours, we'll see if Ohio State can make some noise. I think they can. Steve already has one new prediction in. We'll see what happens over the course of the next couple of days. But Ohio State fans, how are you feeling after this Michigan win? How are you feeling about recruiting? Talk to us, comment section below. All right, Steve, let's turn the page and talk a little Michigan recruiting, because the game was played in Ann Arbor. There was a ton of recruits there. One prospect that did not make it was LSU cornerback commit Havon Finney. We talked about him all last week, saying if he did make this trip, watch out for Michigan, but he does not. And that's okay, because Michigan did get a surprise visit from Jamarian Vincent, committed to Baylor. Steve, what's the latest on Vincent and Michigan's flip chances here?
Well, obviously him coming up to campus again, I think it shows that they have a tremendous shot of flipping him. And I feel like they've always felt it was trending in the right direction. They've been on the gas with Davon Benjamin, Havon Finney, but Jam Vincent is a guy that they love and covet and would love to add to this class. Michigan's a very young football team. This is another recruiting class that they want to inject into this roster. This is a team that's going to have major playoff ambition next year. They're playing a lot of teenagers, particularly on offense, but this is another really talented recruiting class, and they would love to add Jam Vincent to it. Corner remains one of the remaining needs for the Wolverines.
All right, so a lot of commits on campus. It was good to see number 1 running back Savion Hyder. He was there along with Brady Smeagol, Tommy Carr, just a lot of commits back on campus, but also Tennessee commit athlete Celesi Moa. What's going on there? Does Michigan have a late flip chance with Moa?
So that visit surprised me. I didn't see it coming, didn't know that they were still in communication. Celesi Moa, one of the best two-way players in the country, could be a dynamic wide receiver on the next level, certainly has all the traits to be outstanding in the secondary. That's where Michigan has coveted him. Tennessee is recruiting him as a wide receiver. Anytime, look, he visited Utah 2 weekends ago. Kind of talking about this with Austin Price, our Tennessee insider. Michigan, piecing it together, Michigan may be more of a threat than the alma mater Utah. I don't know. We'll see. This one I'm still learning and feeling this one out, because I didn't even know he was coming. And then when you catch wind that he's coming, it's close to kickoff for the biggest game of the season. It's kind of hard to get your sources on the phone when all they care about is beating the Buckeyes for the 5th or 6th year in a row. Obviously, they weren't able to do that this year. So I don't have as much intel as I would like on where Michigan stands here, but obviously getting him on campus. I mean, they were one of his top 3 schools the first time around with Tennessee and Utah. The Vols beat the Utes for him, but he's been to Michigan. They love the coaching staff and love the scheme and think it's a place he could be successful. And I think NIL is very relevant in this recruitment as well. And I think when you're a top-of-board player for Michigan, they've shown that they've had the chops to get it done as well. So is this an opportunity to just come see one of the best, biggest, most tradition-rich games in college football? Or was this an opportunity to come up to Michigan and see if you can see yourself wearing a winged helmet? I'm still working on those details.
Yeah, I think 4 days before signing day, it's more than just going to see a big game especially in this weather. You're traveling with all this holiday travel and people out on the road. It's not the easiest thing to do. So I think maybe, in my opinion, there's more to this, but we'll keep watching that. As I said, we're going to go live every day between now and signing day. So we'll probably have more updates on that coming soon. Steve, real quick, who were some of the other 2027 headliners on campus this weekend?
Well, I think it just starts with the wide receivers, Dakota Garant and Monshon Sales. Those are guys that are at the top of the board for Michigan, along with Quentin Burrell out of Chicago. I don't think they'll strike out on those three guys. Quentin Burrell is probably the one I'd say they have the best shot at, because I think Oregon leads for Dakota Garant, and I think Alabama and Ohio State, Indiana, and some others are setting the pace for Monshon Sales, but Michigan has been in pole position for him before. The one thing we know about Michigan the last two cycles, if you're one of their top 10 overall targets, they hit at a high average. So we'll know more about Michigan and who they're going to prioritize from an NIL standpoint as the process continues. These guys that came to campus today, they didn't see a Michigan win, but they saw a young football team. They saw one of the best environments in college football. And this is a program that had a true freshman quarterback out there against the number one team in the country, against a loaded defense full of NFL standouts, against maybe the Broyles Award winner and Matt Patricia. There's a lot of reason to be excited about Michigan. And you go to our diehards message boards at the Wolverine and on the Den, and obviously they don't like losing to Ohio State, and you're pointing the fingers and who should we make a change with on staff? Like, you're playing a lot of youngins. That doesn't mean that. Look, when people wear the Michigan Black M, they know the scrutiny that comes with that. But this is a young football team that won 9 games and has a chance to win a 10th game in the bowl game. And I think that is a terrific season when you are starting a true freshman quarterback in arguably the best conference in college football.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to continue to talk Michigan recruiting between now and signing day. There's going to be some movement there, but Michigan fans, talk to us. How you feeling about the season? How you feeling about the game? And how you feeling about recruiting? Comment section. All right, Steve, let's go back in time. Let's go back to yesterday. Texas wins its rivalry game against number 3 Texas A&M 27-17. And this one had just a little bit more on the line with an undefeated record for A&M. I feel like Texas fans will remember this one for a long time. You see Arch Manning. He got it done. He was kind of a field general out there, just doing what he needed to do to move the chains, tough as nails. Defense also came to play.
A good football player, former number 1 recruit who people thought should have looked like his uncles in week 1 against an Ohio State defense loaded on that side of the ball, on the road, inside the shoe for an 11 a.m. kick, Arch Manning time. But you know what? He can play the game. He is a good player. He does have poise, grit, toughness. He's a good teammate. He's a true dual threat guy. And I think as they put more pieces around him next year, as they land some off, the offensive line struggled all year for Texas. He played around that. And as they upgrade there, and bolster that wide receiver room, give them a few more weapons. I mean, Texas is going to be a team. They were the preseason number 1 this year. They're going to be preseason ranked high again next year, and they'll have a better chance to meet those expectations with a seasoned Arch Manning on the field. And they're bringing in another top 5 recruiting class, or another top 10 recruiting class. They're up to number 7 in 2026, flipping Jamarian Carlton today, and obviously got off and running in 2027.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because as soon as that game was over, Texas started landing commitments on Saturday. You mentioned it. Number 1 wide receiver, Easton Royal. Number 1 wide receiver in the 2027 cycle. Easton Royal has committed to Texas. He was at the game. I guess he saw enough, Steve?
Well, this was his second time in a month. He was there November 1st as well, and had a fantastic visit to Texas for that game as well. And Texas is also recruiting him in track and field, and that was another wrinkle dynamic that helped the Longhorns, because he plans on doing both sports in college. But Steve Sarkisian, what he's done historically offensively, and some of the wide receivers that have been in his offense, he can see himself being an electric player, playing for an electric program. I mean, that stadium last night, there's not many environments like that in college football. It was absolutely rocking in Austin, and I think that environment helped Texas in a ball game that was tight most of the way till the second half was a bludgeoning. And I think they got a boost from that home crowd. It is a special place to play football. I think obviously Texas has been in the conversation the last couple of years on the field. I don't know if they'll make the college football playoff this year, but they're going to be in that dialogue year in and year out. And landing a player like Easton Royal, he is as dynamic and as elusive and electric a guy as there is in America, regardless of grade, visiting Texas twice this month. He is now in the fold. Sam Spiegelman talked to him. Justin Wells talked to him. I talked to him. He said they have everything I need to be great on and off the field. Texas doesn't like to take early commitments because they know what that entails. But Easton Royal, too good to pass up. Yeah. And this is a young man that's wired right. And Texas has shown they can go into Louisiana and land high caliber players and keep them in the fold. They'll have a lot of work to do with Easton Royal as this process continues and as some of his other favorites like LSU and Florida get head coaches in place. But Texas, 2 visits this month. They get them locked in, and they have a 5-star quarterback committed in 2026 in Diabell. So he believes in that quarterback room for years to come.
Yeah, and just a big commitment. And also 2027 edge, Cameron Hall. See, he made his 3rd visit to Texas this season. Is he now trending to the Longhorns as well?
Well, certainly you love to say follow the visits. Obviously, that is one where they're going to have a great shot to land him and look like the early favorite to get that done. How about Marcus Fakatu, reclassification from 2027, number 2 defensive lineman in the country? He's someone that Texas is in the mix for. Michigan, Notre Dame been trending early. We know that the Longhorns are going to rise up. Easton Royal committed to them. Obviously, they got their in-state guys, the John Merediths of the world that they want to beat Texas A&M on, number 1 corner in the country, number 1 player in the country per the Rivals industry. A&M's got the early buzz, but we've seen Texas come on strong in the spring and summer with guys. They just want to be in the race. So you look at that picture there. They have so much to offer on and off the field. They do NIL as well as anyone in America. They're in the right conversations. Their players enjoy playing there. And so they're going to be a factor with guys that we don't have them leading for right now. And so we'll see what happens with the John Merediths, the Kennedy Browns of the world, the Ishmael Kamaras, those elite in-state 2027 players. Obviously, going out and landing Easton Royal shows they have the chops to land blue-chip ballyhooed guys from outside the state lines. And Texas, there's no way you can ever doubt them on the trail. Number 1 class last year, up to number 7 today, flipping Jamarian Carlton. They'll be in the mix for a top 5 class again in 2027. Easton Royal gets them off and running, ripping and roaring.
All right. Yeah, Texas didn't accomplish everything that they probably wanted to as the season started, but dropping the Aggies on the way out of the season had to feel good for Texas fans. So we'll continue talking Longhorn recruiting up through signing day. All right, Steve, we got one more game to tackle. We're going to head to Norman, where Oklahoma beat LSU 17-13 as we are on the edge of our seats waiting for a decision from Lane Kiffin. I'm checking with Trey. He says we don't have a decision, but I see Brett McMurphy and Shea Dixon on X giving the eyeballs, so maybe we'll hear something soon with this LSU game being over. But let's talk Oklahoma because they won the game. We'll have plenty of time to talk Lane Kiffin. Oklahoma had, 4 official visitors on campus this weekend? I mean, they really they utilized this final weekend to make a big recruiting push.
Well, the win today should put Oklahoma into position to host a home game in the college football playoff. And so for them, coming into a year where people were saying that Coach Venables was on the hot seat to earning a home game in the college football playoff, I think it's huge. And this is a recruiting class that ranks number 15 nationally. They've kind of been on a heater over Thanksgiving. They landed 4-star receiver Jaden Pettit from the Sunshine State. He's having a monstrous senior season. They landed a pass rusher, Dane Bathurst, who's 6'4", 225 pounds, who has some outside linebacker, defensive end flexibility, former Duke commit. This is a class that's starting to come together and heat up. And they had some more guys on campus this weekend. 3 more official visitors: offensive tackle Jonas Muya out of Fort Wayne, defensive end Malik Franklin, who's a 6'6", 252-pound, intriguing prospect that has all the intangibles you're looking for, but also a dynamic pass rusher, Noah Beebe's an offensive lineman from Friendswood, Texas, that they're on. They'd like to add all 3 of these guys, close this cycle strong, and then pour everything into this home game playoff and see where the ride continues to take them. But no program hit better on the assistant coach front in the offseason to go out and get Ben Arbuckle, which then allowed no school to hit better in the transfer portal than Oklahoma, which included John Mateer, who threw for over 300 yards again today against LSU. Wasn't a dominant win. LSU was playing for their postseason life. Frank Wilson wanting to get those extra practices. But it's Oklahoma. Well, excuse me. I don't know why I spoke out of turn there. LSU 7-5. They are bowl bound. Excuse me. Auburn's playing for their bowl life today under DJ Durkin in the Iron Bowl. But LSU, they wanted to end strong, get a win against a top 10 opponent on the road. The Sooners get it done and should have a home game in the college football playoff. And they have a top 15 recruiting class. Yeah. And not many more programs more exciting here down the stretch.
Yeah, and anchored by quarterback Bo Bentley. He had to enjoy being at this game. If you guys remember, if you guys followed this channel, Bo Bentley was picking between LSU and Oklahoma. I bet he feels like he made the right choice here with Oklahoma. Like you said, John Mateer goes crazy. Oklahoma wins at home. Sooner fans, how you guys feeling? Jonathan Hatton flipped last week. Jasir Rogers, he's on board. There's a lot of recruiting momentum. We didn't talk too much about Oklahoma in the spring and really into the summer, but a great season, and they are rolling on the trail 4 days until signing day. You guys talk to me about Oklahoma's recruiting class. All right, Steve, as we wrap it up, there's no announcement on Lane Kiffin. Maybe we should just stream until he decides. Could be like another 24 hours. You down?
Man, I got to make some recruiting phone calls because this thing could keep going. I think it's going to go. We'll see if it goes through the Iron Bowl here, and we'll see if Ole Miss is playing in the SEC championship game. If Auburn can get it done, I do think that Coach Kiffin was really torn. People are saying, how could he not know what he's going to do? I think he's been open and honest. And with that, there's been a lot of interest because a lot of coaches keep this stuff internal. I think he's kind of put his heart on the table through this process and talked about it as much as he could. Mm-hmm. And we'll see where it lies. You know, certainly there were people that thought he was a done deal to Florida early on, and now it looks like it's coming down to staying at Ole Miss, who's having the best season in program history, and then going to LSU. And I think Luke Fickell kind of went through this a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't have all the details, but when Cincinnati made the college football playoff when it was 4 teams, Notre Dame had a coach opening, and he wasn't interviewing for jobs while he was finishing the season at Cincinnati. And with that, Notre Dame obviously went with Marcus Freeman. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly how it played out. Maybe Notre Dame was always going to go with Marcus Freeman, but I do know that Coach Fickell wasn't interviewing for jobs. So kind of a similar situation, right? Coach Kiffin's got this team. It's going to play in the college football playoff. Now, he has interviewed and talked for jobs. And so has the information, talking to people like Coach Saban and Coach Carroll, two people he looks up to. People forget how much of a badass Coach Carroll was. I mean, those USC teams and how good they were and dominant they were to win a college national championship and a Super Bowl. That's not easy to do. Yeah. So he's got some great mentors. We'll see where it lands. I'd find it hard to leave Ole Miss if I was Coach Kiffin.
Steve, I find it hard to believe he's staying at Ole Miss the way he treated yesterday. the lack of excitement for winning the Egg Bowl, the lack of excitement for the way the season went. I think if he was staying at Ole Miss, he says it in the press conference after the game. I can't you ride that momentum of beating your rival. You ride the momentum of what a great season Ole Miss had, and you stay. I mean, Lane Kiffin looked like he was, for lack of a better term, being held hostage in that post-game presser. I don't feel like he was soaking in the moment, enjoying the Ole Miss atmosphere. I felt like he was answering questions in the post-game presser, but I also feel like he was plotting his exit.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it looked like he was having fun on the field, and I think
that's just the way I read it.
There were obviously some extracurriculars after the game that maybe impacted his mood and tone for that presser, but certainly you see him posting a picture of the Egg Bowl with his trophy with his family and being back in the office inside the Ole Miss football facility. Is he drinking it in for the last time, or is he thinking about how could I leave this place? And for me, look, LSU is a terrific place that's won multiple national championships in our life. And the opportunity, LSU is the brand of LSU and the alumni and players that have played there. It's obviously special. At Ole Miss, he's probably got a chance to get a statue and have complete and utter job security. And every year he wins 7 games, he gets a year added on to his contract. And it looks like they're looking to match him fiscally and pour resources in the roster. We'll see what happens. We'll see what he does. Yeah. I do think he was genuinely torn. I don't think he was. My read on is I don't think he knew if he was going to LSU or staying at Ole Miss yesterday. I really don't.
Yeah. In my personal opinion, just from watching the presser, I felt like he's not staying at Ole Miss. As a college football fan, in these changing landscapes of college football as we know it, I want to see him stay at Ole Miss and succeed at Ole Miss and kind of disrupt the way college football has been run for the last 15, 20 years in terms of, coaches bolting and using other programs as stepping stones. We're seeing what's happening at Texas Tech with Joey McGuire. He ain't going anywhere, and it would be cool. I'm not saying I'm rooting for him, but I just think it would be cool to see Lane Kiffin stay at Ole Miss and see what that would mean for college football. So
he's kind of become his best version of himself at Ole Miss, right? You see him as a man of the people in Oxford. You see him as a great family man in Oxford. He's in the best shape of his life in Oxford. They're playing great. The best football that they've ever played at Ole Miss. He certainly left the place better than he found it. And Florida and LSU, and obviously he's not going to Florida. We've moved on from that. But those are places where they can turn on you very quickly. And if you don't, now you can also go on and find greatness there, and then they can turn on you real quickly again. I mean, look at, Coach Miles, Coach Orgeron.
Yeah.
Now, again, like Coach Orgeron's back in the club, again, like they'd love to have him as a coordinator and certainly he's a man of the people, but they didn't want him to be didn't want him to be the football coach anymore. Didn't want Les Miles to be the football coach anymore. And they were, and I'm not saying they should have wanted them. I'm just saying
the way it went down,
you saw people get aged at Florida and LSU. Those are tough places but certainly great challenges for alphas in the sport to go in there and add to the legacy and history of those special places. But Ole Miss, he doesn't have a worry in the world, man, if he stays with the Rebels ever.
All right. Well, that's it. You guys tell us where you think Lane Kiffin's going. We thought maybe when we started this live, we've been going for 45 minutes. We thought maybe we'd have an answer, but we don't. We don't know anything more than you guys know. So talk to us in the comment section below. Where do you guys think Lane Kiffin's going to go? Where do you think Ole Miss should go next? And we'll be talking about this for the next 4 days. Thank you, Steve, for joining us for another Recruit Reaction.
We got to thank the people. 13 weeks of recruit reaction. It was season 2 in the books, baby.
Season 2 in the books. Recruit reaction. Thank you guys. We are over 100K. If you haven't subscribed, hit subscribe. We will be live every day between now and National Signing Day. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon.